All right, we're back. Morse Code Podcast, Dan Morse, Soapy Pre-App, episode. I just asked you, 123? Yep. All right, episode 123. Shout out 123 Kid. You know who that is? Old school wrestling.
Yeah, was he?
X-Pac.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say.
He turned into X-Pac.
Yeah.
Soon after that. 123 Kid was a great character though, like early 90s.
What was his color uniform when he was the 123 Kid?
I think he was like blue. He wore like a full like. Oh boy, I'm gonna butcher this one.
He was
Not
shirted,
spandex, like leotard, like a. Just look him up. We'll put him in the show notes.
Okay.
We'll put a picture of him.
Well, he's in the show, so we do ask him.
That's true. He'll be on shortly. But no, I guess we'll get right into it. So, as the episode title and picture shows, we have good close personal friend Tony Mazz from 98.5 back on with us. Little hot take. I think it was a great conversation.
Hotter take. I think it was a fun conversation.
Nice. Yes. We taught. I mean, today is. If you're listening to this today, it's first day of free agency. We talked a little trade deadline. What else?
NBA free agency, not Major League Lacrosse, which I know we have a lot.
That was last week.
Yeah,
I know that. Don't correct me on air like that.
My apologies.
It's all right. NBA free agency started today. Like it started like right. Shams had like a drop at like 6:00. I think the first one I saw was like the Lonzo was a big one early. Most of it was just player. And I mean, I haven't refreshed in a while. It's mostly just players re-signing so far, right? I know Lonzo went to Chicago.
Yep.
Who else went somewhere else?
Kelly Olynyk went to the Pistons.
Yep. Oh,
so
boy, they're going to be they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
The Eastern Conference is back.
The bad boys are back, big time. I just saw Dwight went back to the Lakers. That's weird. Hold on.
The second half of his career has been so strange.
Very strange, on and off the court. We owe a Dwight Howard deep dive. I think we've been trying to do that for a while. He's had some questionable affairs, to say the least. Hold on. Alex Len's agreed to a 2-year deal with the Kings.
Okay, the power shifts back to the West then.
Yep.
Damn, the Pistons.
Sean Conrad's looking forward to that, I'm sure.
The Pistons just had their stranglehold for about 2 seconds, and here come the Kings.
They can have Alex Len and De'Aaron Fox both on payroll. That seems tight to me. I don't know how they figured that one out.
Hey, like Felger says, the salary cap is made up. You can give him a pencil and a napkin, and he'll figure it out. So I'm sure they can too.
The salary cap is just that. It's just all cap. Maybe that's what they mean. Like, this is just the salary cap. Like, cap hell is not a place I wouldn't mind going. Bobby Portis back with the Bucks. He got like $10 million. $9 million, excuse me. Sterling Brown has agreed to a deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Man. This one was weird. Doug McDermott, 3 years, $42 million to go play with the Spurs. TJ McConnell got $35 million.
Surprised Doug McDermott didn't go to the Jazz just for.
Hey, I know what you're insinuating.
Just for,
Yeah, he'd fit right in there.
Yeah, he's a big Vivint smart home customer, so
yeah,
he belongs in that arena.
Jared Allen got $100 million.
That was interesting.
I saw a graphic the other day. Like the Cavs starting five, they're like all under 25. It's like, him, Sexton, Garland. Who'd they just draft? Who did they take? They got Mobley, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Mobley, and then the other kid they drafted last year. Like, they have pretty good young players who probably aren't making a lot of money, except Jared Allen now. Oh, your boy was part of the Lonzo trade, I think.
I was sad.
Oh,
we haven't mentioned him in quite a while.
Hold on. Yeah, let me find that. Garrett Temple. I assume he's trending, so I'm just going to go to the search bar.
Damn it. I hate when you utter his name like that.
Number 1 worldwide. Notorious Garrett Temple. So that'll be interesting. We'll have to get Wody on to get his. He should go live from like the closest like Sears to see if his jerseys are still somehow on the rack, which they can't be at this point. I don't know. What are you gonna do? We did talk about the Lonzo deal with Tony because I did like some of the talk of him going to Boston. I thought that would have been a good fit. One thing we didn't really ask him, we talked about Marcus Smart being a trade piece. I don't understand what the trade piece would be at this point. Like, who do we trade Marcus Smart for this year?
Who could we get using Marcus Smart? Is that what you're saying?
Uh-huh.
Marcus Camby?
I'd do
You
it.
thought about that?
I haven't until right now.
Okay. Well, why don't you crunch some numbers and get back to me?
Is he in the Big Three? Or that other weird tournament that's going on right now?
The other basketball tournament known as the basketball tournament?
Yeah, that's the one. That basketball tournament. The basketball tournament. Do you know what that is?
I don't know.
I saw it last night after the Sox game. I've never heard of that.
I think it was that should have been what the Big Three became.
Do you think those are better players than the Big Three?
Probably the Big Three
they're
is
young.
all
Like the Big Three is all older players. Correct.
Yeah.
What's weird about the basketball tournament, I noticed like some teams have like names and some are just like team 20, like team 23 played last night, which is really weird.
Interesting.
I don't
Is
know.
it a bunch of guys with the same jersey number?
I think they were all 23. Like they were their team 23.
Got to zig when everyone else zags.
Guess so. I don't know. We don't get into that as much as I would want it to with Tony, but save that for next time. I don't know. Anything else that you want to get off your chest before we get into our interview? Have a good week, good weekend. Oh, you went to a wedding this weekend.
I did. Shout out to Mike Bollier.
Yeah, for sure.
Congratulations to him.
Congrats, buddy.
And Alicia. The beef with Dan is
doesn't look like it's getting better.
No, I was in the midst of trying to solve. Well, actually, I was in the midst of ordering a drink when he ran up on me and thought he could just, I don't know, get in my face.
He has no boundaries. He's reckless. He's dangerous.
He's limitless.
Armed and dangerous.
Bradley Cooper, Bollier, limitless.
Yeah. Good luck to whoever his guest does on his show this week, because he's a loose cannon. He could do anything. I wouldn't feel safe sitting across the desk from him.
Oh, no. I have a question for you before we end this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mazz brought this up to me before we started recording.
Oh, okay.
We are 1 week away from a little over a week away from the Patriots' first preseason game.
Yep.
Which is crazy. Do you think that you have done enough this summer? Do you think you've done by this point in this summer as much as you would have expected to, being that it's the summer after COVID?
Not really. I mean, my options are probably, somewhat limited with like a toddler and stuff like that. And my wife works a lot of weekends. So I've had a great summer. I've done all I've wanted to. I did miss out on that concert in Chicago, unfortunately. I was definitely looking forward to going to that. I feel like I could, I don't know, people literally don't get lost in that just sea of people. Those views were crazy. Just zooming out and seeing how wild that was. I think we said it on the show. I never thought that was going to happen again. And it happened much sooner than I thought it would happen.
I still feel like at some point, I don't know how we could record from a concert, but I think we should try it.
Go live? Yeah. Sitting right behind the speakers.
Your 2-year-old, is he still asking you to go to the Rolling Loud Festival for next year? Or is he more of a Lollapalooza guy?
He's going to wait till the Warped Tour next year, I think.
There you go.
He's going to wait till the Up and Smoke reunion, I think, in 2023. I think that's coming. For sure.
Yeah, it just brings back memories of the original Woodstock in '69.
Mm-hmm. Memories of you being there?
Yeah. I don't necessarily want to talk about it, but it definitely brings back.
I don't either. I definitely don't want to talk about it. Do you remember the Up and Smoke tour? I know we didn't go to it, but from the early 2000s.
That looks
so cool. So cool. I think they made a documentary, or maybe it was just the I forgot about Dre. The Next Episode music video where there's a video, a prequel of Dre and Snoop coming out to it. You know what I'm talking about? That must be on YouTube or something. That's so cool.
I could be wrong, but I think that video was actually from the TD Garden randomly.
Maybe. Yeah, it might have been. That's the one I'm picturing. I assumed it was around the 2001 album release. That was the tour. But I remember clips. I think it was What's the song with Eminem and Exhibit?
Bitch Please 2?
No. Off that album.
Shit. Forgot
Anyway.
about Dre?
No. God, this is pissing me off. Sorry. We'll get to Mazz in a second. It's kind of important. What's the difference? What's the difference on it? I think that's when he had like the Jason mask and like the overalls.
Yep.
And I think a chainsaw maybe. And like Dre and Exhibit were there. Everyone was there. Like that did look like a really fun concert. I was like 11 at the time, so I don't think I would have enjoyed myself there. But that was probably the last like cool concert I remember seeing that I wasn't there, outside of the ones we've been to in person.
Yeah.
I've never been to like a festival, like outdoors with like thousands of people. But that I remember seeing videos of the Up in Smoke tour on YouTube, and that looked sick.
Do you think at this current age, like if you were to arrange the logistics and have a babysitter and your wife was free,
sure.
If I was to ask you to go to a festival for like a weekend and we had to camp in a tent, would you do it?
0%.
Because
I just sounds terrible. Sorry.
But what if it was music that you really liked? Like your favorite artist? The music would be the
least of my worries. No, I wouldn't want to do that.
Okay.
If I get like a hotel room, I'd consider it, but I wouldn't want to sleep in a tent with you outside for a weekend again.
All right, fair. I was just curious.
Yeah. Okay. Gotta keep the lights on. I want to get to our ad read.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
All right. As you can see, today's episode, as always, proudly brought to you by Cold River Vodka. Soapy is, of course, again showing off the bottle. Looks like he's done some damage to that one over the last 3 months. Check out at Cold River Vodka on Twitter, on Instagram, and www.coldrivervodka.com. And as we alluded to last time, it's summer in New England. It's nice. Go check out the distillery in Freeport, Maine. You spend a day up there, drink responsibly, of course, hit the outlets, take pictures in front of that big moose that they don't advertise with us. I'm not going to mention them by name. But there's a outdoor outfitting company based out of Freeport with a big moose out front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you can do
I was just going to say, take a picture, tag us.
Or don't. I couldn't care less if you do or not. Cold River, yes. But that other place, no, don't. I don't want it. I don't care about that.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Let's get right into it. Here's our... say that again?
No crossbreeding on this show or whatever. No. Cross-pollination. I don't know.
No. Let's get right into it. Here's our conversation with Tony Mazz of Felger and Mazz on 98.5.
All right. Tony Mazz is here with Dan and I, and we're going to get straight into it. We're about an hour fresh into the NBA free agency, and Marcus Smart is still a Celtic. Tony Mazz, your thoughts?
Okay, so look, after the last day or so, or the last several hours, I guess a lot of this originated with a Chris Mannix report, right? That the Celtics are looking to move Smart, which to me was the obvious thing to do on this roster. I was kind of hoping for the Lonzo Ball thing. I'll be honest. I thought he would have been a good fit. He's a pass first kind of player, and I think the Celtics could use that kind of guy because I think that was one of the problems on the team last year. And, I think it's a little bit better now. Horford's going to be a pass first guy. And, I think Tatum will become more of a passing player. I would never call him pass first, but I was hoping for Ball. Obviously that's not going to happen. He's going to the Chicago Bulls, but my guess is that there'll be something involving Smart at some point because I believe all the reports, the idea that he's hard to coach, that Stevens got frustrated with the unpredictability, which is another way of saying that he freelances. I think that can wear on a team because people sort of throw their hands up and say, what are you doing now? And so if someone's going to go of those three guys, Smart, Tatum, and Brown, and to me, it's a no-brainer. Smart's got to go.
What do you I agree. I definitely thought, I don't know if I think now, because I don't know what the market's going to be and what the options are, but following up on what you guys talked about on the show a couple weeks back, why do you think that the team put out those social media posts just randomly out of nowhere in the middle of summer, being like the grit and intensity?
Yeah,
that basically like almost like a thank you to Marcus Smart. It was like a social media version of taking a page out in the Boston Globe thanking him. Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, so look, it's, I mean, at the time we thought they were kind of kissing up to him because he got, he didn't get mentioned in Ime Udoka's first press conference, right? When he was asked about the nucleus of the team, he said Tatum and Brown are the pillars. And then only when he was asked about Smart several days later did he add Smart into that group. So it could be that they were kind of mending fences there a little bit. It could also be that they had no connection whatsoever. Like,
right.
It could be that there was someone running the social media accounts and they go through and put things up about different players. Honestly, I think that's probably less likely. But my guess is they were trying to massage his ego a little bit. Maybe they were negotiating at the time. Maybe part of the reason that they're more inclined to deal him now is because he wanted more money than they think he's worth. So you can never discount that, right? He's entering the final year of his contract. So there had to be a negotiation in there somewhere. So my guess is something like that. But look, he plays hard. There's a lot to like about him, but he's expendable.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
And if they're having they're having chemistry problems, on the court or off or both, then, in that league, you keep your best players, the most talented players.
I was going to say
the other guys. So he's the odd man out.
I was going to say every successive social media post is worth a few extra million off the contract, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. Unfortunately, I don't think it always works.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I was gonna say I was really excited about Lonzo Ball too, because I think it might have been Jimmy who tweeted yesterday. It was one of the 98.5 guys. It might have been Lifshats or someone, and they're like, would you do Marcus Smart for Lonzo Ball? Like, if those are the two main pieces. And I think it's just hard for Celtics fans to admit, like, Lonzo Ball is just simply a better point guard than Marcus Smart, no matter how you chop it up. He's younger. And if you look at, I was like just thumbing around like his shooting splits and stuff, he's developed into a good shooter, a respectable shooter. I don't think Marcus Smart really is. Lonzo Ball, I mean.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's improved quite a bit.
I just think people still, and I get caught in this too, I think people just still picture him as like that lanky, like awkward kid in Los Angeles. And he's not. I think he'd be a great fit. Like you said, he can move the ball. He can play defense. I don't think he's as of a risk of, like you said, just getting into a 3 for 14 night from behind the arc, like whatever Marcus Smart would get into. So, yeah, that was tough to see. I think he was the first guy to really go today. I think Shams tweeted that at like 6:01, like the Lonzo Ball deal.
Yeah, I don't like that either. And look, I was just looking it up. This past year, the last 2 years from 3-point, he shot almost 38%. And this year, the big one is from the line. It went up to 78. Right, which is a good number.
Oh, yeah.
Once you get up into that area, I just called it up right now.
Yeah.
So once you get up into that area, now you can go to the basket and you get fouled, so be it, or they collapse on you. He's good at finding the open man. I liked Ball too.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of player I'd like to see, particularly if he's young. They could use a young guy like that.
Yep, sure. What were your thoughts on some of the Isaiah Thomas noise that was going around over the past 24
So you know
hours?
what? I'm okay with it. He's more of a score first kind of player, but
right.
I think they're going to need some help on the bench.
Yep.
Maybe they want to use him as a starter. He's not ideal for what they have. And the one thing I don't like is that I don't want them to lapse back into what they were when Isaiah was here the first time. Yep. And I don't think he's that good anymore either, right? I mean, he's a different player. He's had a hip injury, like everything's different. So, and this is part of the reason that it isn't working with Smart, that Smart got here before Tatum and Brown. And so in his mind, it's being built around him, not around Tatum and Brown. Mm-hmm. And so, at some point that gets in the way. It's like there's this seniority thing that gets in the way. And, there is a human element to it. Like, this is part of the reason the Bruins moved Zdeno Chara, right? Or let him go. Because they felt like as long as he was there, McAvoy was going to defer to him. And they were right. I mean, I think they did the right thing. It was sort of the same thing years ago with John Lester and the Red Sox when Beckett was there. Yep. He deferred. And you can say that, well, that makes him a bad leader, or you can say, no, it makes him a good teammate because he's respecting the seniority, right? Like, So that one's always a tough one on guys when you have like an older guy who's been around that you almost feel like you have to, respect.
Yeah.
So
I think people have been talking about it like the last 3 years.
Totally.
Like, on and off, which has just been so kind of odd to me, especially for when they were title contenders. They were in the picture the last like 2 or 3 years. It was such a weird force. Yeah, seemed like a forced narrative.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. The big problem is that Smart saw it that way. If Smart were, and this is a common problem in the NBA because all these guys are in their 20s, they're all high draft picks, and they don't have necessarily the maturity to understand the bigger picture, which is why it takes a lot of them to get into their 30s before they look up and go, I haven't won a championship. I want to play on a winner. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened with Pierce, Allen, and Garnett. That's what happened with Chris Paul. Like, you get to a certain stage where you say, it's just not, I got to go somewhere else and it's got to work in a different way. Right. And, you have to sacrifice. You have to sacrifice. Yep. And I just don't think Smart gets it, at least not yet. I think eventually he will, but he probably needs to go to a place where there's a great player who can look at him and go, dude, you're a role player here, like Milwaukee, right? Or Brooklyn. Yeah. He goes to one of those places, he'll have value. I mean, maybe he'll go to the Lakers, right? Like, but I think it's going to be someone like that with a superstar on it that can really sort of, rein him in or keep him in check.
Yeah, no, I agree. Go ahead, Soap. I think you said you had something to mention.
Yeah, I did have a question. I'll follow up on that really quick. I think he needs almost like I love Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. I think he needs a louder personality to be the superstar in order to kind of force him to take a back seat. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's a hot take, but do you think? I think we agree with the show, or at least I do. I think Bradley Beal to the Celtics is a done deal, whether it's this year or next year. Agree? Disagree?
It feels that way, right? It feels that way. I mean, they cleared the money on Walker. Beal's going to be a free agent. He and Tatum are buddies. I mean, if they miss out on him, it's a loss, right? At this stage, I look at it in those terms. That what if they don't get him? I think you go, ooh, that one hurts.
Yep.
And I think that so when you think of it in those terms, I agree. I feel like he's the guy that they're lined up to get.
So when do you think I'm trying to think, even like the way today's going, is it more likely to be kind of a bridge year this year and try and get a guy like him next year? Or do you think they make a move to get him via trade this summer?
So when they moved Westbrook, I thought it made it more likely. And then now I'm starting to think it makes it less likely.
Yeah. So
I've gone back and forth, but if you're the Celtics, you've kind of got the I almost called them the Bullets. You kind of get the Wizards over a barrel, right? Because you sit there and say, well, we're not going to give you something ridiculous. We're not going to give you Jaylen Brown. We'll just wait the season and then we'll sign him.
Yep.
So the Celtics are in the better leverage position. We would all love to see him here now, but if you said to me, what's the better play? And I'm just throwing names against the wall. Okay. Yeah. Robert Williams, Nesmith, Smart, and 3 first-round picks for Beal, or wait, sign him and see how Williams does and maybe trade Smart for something else. I choose plan B.
Right.
So, I just think that the better play for the Celtics is to wait.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I just think sports fans are so impatient nowadays, especially with we'll get into baseball shortly, but the way, if you don't kill it at the trade deadline or within the first, hour and 18 minutes of, free agency, it's exactly. What's Brad doing? Just sitting on his ass, letting everyone else get better. But go ahead, Sipton. I do want to ask Tony some baseball stuff, but go ahead.
Last question on the Celtics then. I hope that the Celtics can get Beal without giving up Jaylen Brown. And I just couldn't remember your take on this, Tony. Do you agree that I think Beal is a better player now just because that's how prolific he is on the offensive end? But I don't think it's a crazy thing to say that if you project them over the next few years, especially with how much younger Jaylen is than Bradley Beal, that Jaylen Brown could easily surpass him in a couple seasons just because he's better on both ends of the floor. I didn't know what your thoughts on that were.
No, I think that's a pretty accurate or fair characterization of it, which is to say that Brown's a better all-around player now even. Yeah. But Beal is elite at the offensive end, right? He's a ridiculous offensive player. So the thing that I don't love about a Brown for Beal isn't that Brown will be better in 2 years. It's that you need all three if you're going to be in that conversation, right? And again, even with those three guys, I'm not sure you're championship caliber. The only way that I would trade Brown for Beal is if it ensures me that I can keep Tatum for longer than I already have him, right? Yeah. In other words, you know, and obviously the when you can sign guys to extensions and things like that, there's all types of restrictions on that in the NBA. But let's just say hypothetically, you know, you could extend Jason Tatum another 2 years and sign Beal for 4 by doing it now. Then I would do it, right? Yep. But you know, that's really not on the table yet. So if I'm the Celtics, I wait. You don't have the horse. If you don't have the horses to make the deal now, don't. Do the best you can and go get them next summer.
I think it would have looked something like if we only ended up with Beal and Tatum, it kind of would have reminded me of summer of 2007 when initially it was just Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and we didn't know that Garnett was on his way.
Right.
Where it's like, okay, yeah, cool. You got 2 good offensive players, but you have nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, right. Yeah. And also think of it in these terms. You say Pierce and Allen. Garnett was the best of the 3. So they got the biggest piece last.
Yep.
Right. So, and I don't think Brown's the biggest piece. I think Tatum is the biggest piece. But the point is to win a championship, like as good as Allen and Pierce were, they weren't close without Garnett.
Right.
Oh, no.
You know,
yeah, I agree.
And so you need the big dog. And fortunately, Tatum is the big dog. I mean, I think Tatum's going to be a stud.
And it's also
going to find a way to keep it. Yeah.
Yeah. Real quick, I was going to say it's also, that's a good, you know, comparison, but it's just such a much different world than it was 10, 13 years ago. Like, Jason Tatum and Bradley Beal are negotiating this deal, you know, and I think you guys touched on it when the rumors first came out, like back even like during like when they just got there for the Olympics. A big sign was you guys were running through I think it was the Warriors who put some offers on the table and they're just like, no, like this isn't going to work. So he wants to go to the Celtics. So for them not to get him, Beal, I think you have to take a huge step back for him to not. He already doesn't want to go other places. Now you need him to fall out of love with the Celtics. And then I think that's the only risk. But the point that he wants to go there, I think you can wait a year and take your chances with him, basically not changing his mind.
Yeah,
which I think is a good.
So that's a tricky one too, right? If you're the Celtics, you don't want to you can put yourself in a spot where then all of a sudden you're screwed. I mean, you know, but if he's willing to sign an extension here, then he's willing to sign as a free agent here, right?
Yeah, good point.
If I'm then they had a similar scenario, I think, with Al Horford. You know, it wasn't totally apples to apples, but they could have traded for Horford when he was in Atlanta. They waited and signed him as a free agent and gave up nothing.
Yeah.
So I think that's the preferred route if you can do it that way.
Okay. We'll see. Let's shift to baseball while we have you. So sure. I'm gonna frame this question. pretend we didn't just get swept by the Rays. So pretend go back to Thursday night. What were your thoughts, going into the trade deadline and then 5 minutes after, and then how it looked? Does it look that much worse after this weekend? So where it seems like every other free agent hit 5 home runs and we got swept by the Rays.
Yeah, I think I'll even back up to say a week to 10 days before free agency. I thought they're not going to do anything big. You know, it's going to be, and again, I just thought it was going to be, CJ Cron and whoever, right? I was going to say role players, right? Role players. Because I knew that Bloom wasn't going to give up top 5, top 10 prospects. I mean, top 10s with the Red Sox is relative because their farm system's not as deep as, say, Tampa's. So, and I think the kid they ended up giving up for Schwarber was number 9, right? So he was in their top 10 or close to it. But then I saw what Nelson Cruz went to Tampa for, and I thought, well, that's not ridiculous. It was their number 10 and their number 15 or something. It was, one was 10, the other was in the teens. And I thought, if you're the Red Sox and you have to give up your 10th best prospect, or called your 8th or 9th, and then throw in an A-ball kid. And I thought Rizzo was going to be less than Cruz because Rizzo hasn't had a good year. He plays first base, but Cruz is an elite middle of the order bat. I mean, he's one of the real great DHs in baseball. So I thought I want Rizzo. And I said that they need a left-handed hitting first baseman. And I was so sick of Dahlbeck's defense by then that I said, I want him more for the defense than for the bat. I mean, he's going to hit 7th in the lineup or whatever it is, which is fine. but I want the defense. I mean, Rizzo's a 4-time Gold Glove winner or something like that. And just watch him play defense. He takes pride in it. You can see it. He knows he's good. So, okay, now we can fast forward to the deadline. And, I played along on some of the Scherzer stuff, but that felt like bullcrap to me. I knew that Barrios was going to cost a lot. I would have loved him, but I knew that they weren't going to do it. So I thought Rizzo and a reliever was in play. I thought that was realistic. And for them to not do it because of the luxury tax, at least in part, is inexcusable. It is effing inexcusable. And if you're a Red Sox fan, you have a right to be pissed off. So, and let alone if you're a player on the team. I don't mean to keep rambling, so just stop me when you want. But
no. That player side is more than fair. I've seen more people come out and argue that. I think Carabas was talking about it on his podcast. That optics wise, that is a fair train of thought. I think. I agree.
I mean, look at these guys. Hunter Renfroe came over as having a great, overall a good year. Alex Verdugo goes up and down a little bit, but he plays hard. Enrique Hernandez plays his ass off. Bogarts is out there looking to play 150 to 155 games. There aren't many guys like that anymore. Let alone Evaldi pitching his ass off, or even, you'd say Martin Perez grinding through it. These guys aren't that good, and they've given you everything you could ask for and more. Then the deadline comes and ownership says, and upper management, I kind of throw them all together because they're in cahoots. You look at that and go, well, that's bullshit. Like, you can't ask your players to sacrifice everything and then all of a sudden say, well, Rizzo was going to cost too much. So we got you Schwarber. Schwarber, who's injured and has played first base once in his career. So I admit I take some sick level of satisfaction in seeing Rizzo belted out of the ballpark and turn double plays in his first weekend with the Yankees because I'm a bad human being.
Yeah, not great. Well, you did forget, Tony. They did get the reliever. They got Hansel and Gretel from the
Hansel Robles and the other guy, the lefty. Holy crap. Watching him sling, Frisbees up there. I went, this guy can't pitch. That was discouraging, demoralizing.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Rizzo is such he's such a, he looks like a Yankee douchebag of old.
Yeah. He's an OG. Yeah.
I feel like we missed that for a while, maybe just because it's been a little while since the Yankees have won, or I don't know. At least for me, I haven't taken their acquisitions as seriously as we used to in the old George Steinbrenner days. But question for you, Tony, about Carabas, and I'm not saying this because we're trying to get him on the show. I legitimately think that he is really good for not only Red Sox baseball, but baseball around the country.
MLB.
Do you think that baseball is on its way back, or do you think that we as New Englanders are maybe spoiled because of, in large part, the coverage that he gives, and we kind of conflate that with how it's being perceived nationally?
So I don't think baseball is on the way back, at least not yet. I mean, I think it made a gain this year. But it was so bad last year. They did so much damage to the sport last year that it couldn't.
Yeah, you can only go up, I guess.
Right. It was a disaster, right? They played a 60-game schedule. They were bitching about contracts while, the world was in the midst of a pandemic. They couldn't get the labor thing sorted out. They did a lot of damage to the sport last year. And so I think the encouraging sign is it does feel to me like they're starting to act. They went after the substances on the mound. They made a rule change in the middle of the year. I feel like there are other rule changes coming. I think we're going to see a lot of that stuff, addressed or taken care of. And I say a lot, not all of it, right? But we might get a pitch clock next year. You might see that.
Ooh.
So,
David Price, cover your ears.
Well, yeah. So I'm not. Yeah, exactly. I'm not telling you it's like a scoop, but I think that MLB is going to try to leverage something else to get a pitch clock put in, and I think they all recognize now that there's a problem with the game.
Yeah.
So, and look, Jared has a hand in that, right? I mean, you guys are probably better to answer that than I am because I still get most of my info through what I would call more conventional means, or much of my info through conventional means. But people your age are on their phones constantly, and that's everything. They get everything via the phone. So, Jared loves the sport. He's into it. He's on social constantly. And I think that can only help, right?
Yeah.
And baseball needs more people like Jared, right? I don't think there's any question. So I still think, though, that the game is flawed.
Yeah.
And until that gets fixed, you're not going to have people dig in like they used to.
Well, it's a good point about, and I know you guys talk about this on the show a lot when you talk about mostly Felger, talking about like, what does this streaming numbers mean and how people are consuming the game. Baseball is a great sport for clip heavy highlights because like you just said, there's so much like downtime in between. I almost picture it like when you like DVR like a TV show so you can just fast forward through the commercials. Like that's what I think Carabas is great. I can see a 10-second clip of a Shohei Ohtani home run as opposed to watching a 4-hour game where all I care about is that 10 seconds. But totally to your point, that's hard to put on a metric standpoint for ratings and comparing to other leagues. And I think it might be messy for a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if the other leagues start going in that direction too. If the NBA, obviously, a 10-second dunk of a clip or football, a hit or whatever. But I think really that's kind of what baseball is hanging on to right now. Just short clips. If it's Jared doing it, great. But I think it's just hard to compare those to what we're so used to ranking the sports and viewership and stuff.
Oh, so, totally.
I don't know. And the pitch clock, I thought they had a pitch. Don't they talk about pitch clocks every year?
So they have it in the minors.
Okay.
But not in the big leagues. Gotcha.
Okay. So what would that look like? Like 10, 15 seconds or something?
So in the minors, I think it's 20.
Okay.
And, and it's only when the bases are empty.
Okay.
But I can tell you this, like, and I first saw it, and I went to a game in AA Portland with my son a number of years ago, and they had it up there.
Yeah.
And, you notice it. I mean, your eye is drawn to it. You watch that clock and you say, okay, there's another pitch coming here. And so it helps you fill the time that there's a countdown there.
Yeah.
So, and also, look, the obvious fact is that it speeds up the at-bats, right?
True.
So I think, there's some stuff that went into place this year that is having some impact, taking the substances out and has put more balls in play. That's a good sign, but they got a long way to go, man. They let the game rot. They let it rot, and they fucked it up royally. They totally did.
Yep. What are you going to do? Quick question. You reminded me of this, Soapy, when you mentioned KG. We had put this on our list to ask you, I think last time, and just to get around to it. I thought it was interesting. Remember KG came out, I think it was his Hall of Fame weekend, right? He basically said one of his biggest regrets was he didn't force his way out of Minnesota sooner to get to Boston.
Yep.
Soapy and I were talking about that in relation to Brady. Do you think after how this year went in Florida, Brady ever looks back and be like, what if I just did this like 2 or 3 years ago and just had like a lot more fun, a lot more freedom for like 4 or 5 years as opposed to 1, maybe 2?
Yes.
Okay, and that's it.
That's it. That's our show. We'll see you guys next time.
No. And
no,
so when I say yes, with Brady, it's a little tricky because he did win a Super Bowl in 2018. Let's not forget that. Yeah. So, but I would also say, I don't know how much he enjoyed it.
Right.
Because
that's what
that team ended up winning really with a running game and defense.
Mm.
So it was not enjoyable. And let's not forget that a year prior to that, he had gone to Kraft and asked to be let out of his contract.
Yep.
Right. So by the time he left, the drama had been going on for a few years.
Yep.
And Brady wanted out. I mean, he's just like, this is enough. So now having won, do I think he looks at it and says, if I had gotten out earlier, we would have won even more down here? Because he's Brady. Yes. And because he's Brady, he might be right.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think what happens is, like a lot of things in life, you get to a certain age where you said, well, if I had done it this way, I'd have been better off. But it's too late by the time you realize it,
Yeah.
And so you just try to pass the knowledge on to someone else or whatever. And, but I do think, I think there's no question. I think he second guesses the way he handled it with the Patriots over the years.
Yeah. No, I agree. I thought that was an interesting concept. Last question for me, and I wish you got into more of this like we did last time, but going back to like 98.5 and you guys' show specifically,
sure.
It was really cool last time we had you on and Felger and everyone else to get some kind of behind the scenes looks at the Felger and Mazz show. One question we had was, you guys get now and then you get into some heated arguments on the show that tend to just die off into the commercial break. We never hear from it again. Do you remember any specifics, any major segments or talking points where you guys really remember getting into it that might have even like taken itself off air, like on commercial, you guys are still kind of getting after each other?
I mean, maybe in the beginning, in the beginning, because we didn't really know each other, I mean, and when I say know each other, like, well,
that's actually a good point. Real quick, did you and Mike meet like when the Felger and Mazz show was coming together? I forget.
Well, so we had worked together at the Herald. Okay. Right. In fact, we were like literally started as interns. The same, Mike was a sophomore at BU, I think, and I just graduated from college.
So like 10 years ago or so. Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, just 10. So at that time, like, you're in your 20s. I've said this to people, like there were things that, Mike's a different personality. It's part of what makes him interesting. I mean, and he's a really smart guy. And, when you're young and someone's personality is different, and it's really a reflection on your own insecurities, you think that they don't like you or something. Mm-hmm. And it's just that they're different. That's all. I'm fairly outgoing and Mike's not, not off air. And so I think I know I misinterpreted that. Mm-hmm. And, but now then we start working together and then you start to understand that he's just who he is, and that's okay. Right. Like, so you start to realize that, and again, some of this comes from like getting married, having kids. You realize that everybody's got their flaws and you just accept them. Yeah. And, not everybody has to be the same. In fact, the world would be a terribly boring place if that were true. Right. So, honestly, now I mean, like you said, there are a million discussions we have that might get, a little testy or whatever. And then we go to break. And then when we come back, by the time the break's over, we've already all forgotten about it. Yeah. I couldn't even begin to tell you, like, I mean, I remember one year at the Super Bowl, we were talking about the Belichick Parcells documentary.
Yep.
And I thought that if Felger and Gasper were both kind of really all over Parcells. And I thought, well, of course you guys feel that way because you covered Bill. You covered Belichick. And I got a little testy. And at one point, Murray said, like, what the hell? What's your problem? And I think probably in retrospect was just because I was away from home for the week and I was getting tired of being there.
Yeah. A shitty day.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's usually something stupid like that. That's getting under your skin. And so you lash out at other people for no good reason.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Murray had just rolled a really bad joint.
Probably.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Hung over from Super Tuesday or wherever the hell it was.
I mean, I wouldn't rule out Murray's influence in there some way, shape, or form. So, look, we're lucky. We got a good group.
Yeah.
They're good guys. We all try to do the best we can and play to each other's strengths. And, we've been really lucky, really, really lucky.
It's awesome. This is the last question for me, Mazz. So week 4 of the Patriots schedule is the Buccaneers game. Could you give us an impression of how you think Bill's press conferences are going to sound that week? How much snorting and fucking saliva is going to be on that microphone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on to Tampa Bay. I mean,
that's pretty much it.
Murray does a better one than I do.
Yeah.
But that'll be it. He's gonna say, well, I've talked about Tom before. No quarterback I'd rather have than Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. And that'll be it. That's all we'll get. And just recently, like I think it was Chris Gasper who asked the question, have you been in touch with Tom since he won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, that was great.
And Bill wouldn't answer it.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, I remember that one. That was great. What did he say? I hope this question finds you well. That one, right?
Yeah.
That was really good. Thanks, Bill.
I hope this finds you well. And
that was. I might clip that into the show. That was. You guys really had like a few days worth of content with that one.
Yeah, we busted Gasper balls to no end about that one.
Thanks, Bill.
Good. And then we commended him for it. I wanted to kiss him for asking the question.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, Belichick was like, I'll keep those conversations private. And I firmly believe Gasper knew.
Oh, yeah.
Bill hadn't reached out to Brady.
Oh, for sure.
He asked it.
Yeah.
So,
he asked that one over Zoom, right? That wasn't in person. That was still during like Zoom conferences,
that was on Zoom,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that takes a little air out of the sail, but yeah, still good for him.
Oh,
balls
great.
On Chris Gasper.
Yeah, yep. God bless him. Great question.
Hey Tony, before we let you go, we want to check how's you mentioned the book last time you were on. How's everything going with the book?
It's slow.
Okay.
But we're getting there.
Yeah.
So it's been, it's just so hard to, to find time to write consistently.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time on the phone tracking people down and trying to get some fresh insights into what it's been like to work here, play here, coach here over the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. And it's coming along. I'd say I'm about half done.
Okay.
And it can, at this stage, it'll start to pick up some speed. So, in fact, I was, I worked on it a little bit today, but I thought summer would be easier, and it's turned out to be harder. Mm-hmm. Just with inconsistencies of schedules and constantly shifting gears, it's been hard to carve out time.
Yeah.
But I got some time coming up here soon where I'm hoping to really pick up some speed on it. But thank you for asking.
Of course. I was going to say, if you ever need help with like the epilogue or the foreword, like the Morse Code podcast is more than happy to, get on the record, whatever you want to ask. We're an open book. So
okay, no problem.
Feel free.
I'll consider that for sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Real quick, Tony, are you trying to capture that from like a media perspective, as like from your eyes, or from a fan's, or some combination?
I would say some combination, that it's really, and also from the eyes of some of the people that work with the teams, right? So for example, when the Celtics won their championship, and I'm letting out a little, these aren't secrets per se, but when the Celtics won their championship with Garnett, Jonathan Kraft was supposed to be flying on a family trip that was like to a safari in Africa, right? And he put off, they all went without him because he wanted to be at the Garden to watch the Celtics win. The Krafts were lifelong season ticket holders, and Wick Grousbeck was in Foxborough when Vinatieri had the snow kick, right?
Yeah.
Danny Ainge was at Yankee Stadium when Tim Wakefield gave up the home run to Aaron Boone, right? And Ainge played in the major leagues. And so there's a lot of overlap, like Brad Stevens and Josh McDaniels, good friends. They've become very friendly. They're both sort of from that part of the country, and McDaniels from Ohio, Stevens from Indiana, from the Midwest, or the breadbasket of America, if you want to call whatever you want to call it. And so like there's all these little links that go on behind the scenes. And the winning alone was, if you go back and relive some of it, and that, to me, this has been the fascinating part. Like, you're like, oh yeah, that's right. That happened in that game too. Like, I forgot about that. And oh yeah, that, so some of the Patriots stuff from those early years has been a lot of fun to go back and watch, you know,
for sure.
And, like we just remember the snow game, but then you find specific plays or what Brady's numbers were in the fourth quarter of that game.
Yeah.
And then, when you sort of put it all in order and you're changing from one team to the next, now, it's a pretty fascinating story as to what Boston became.
Yeah, no shit. I was going to say, are you looking at like 3,000 page book
right.
between
Also,
the
this
four
has
of
been
them?
part of the problem too, is that,
My
my initial thought was, okay, like from past experiences with books, they end up being 80,000 to 100,000 words.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I think I'm close to that number and I'm halfway through. Right?
Yeah, right.
So it's, it ends up, I don't know how much of the stuff they want to cut out. And, it's just the city's changed too, right? There's been a lot that's going on in the city. Some of it hasn't been good. Obviously the marathon bombing sticks out, but the Adam Jones incident at Fenway Park back in, I think that was 2017, it's just like, there's a lot of ground to cover, right?
Sure.
A lot of ground to cover, not to mention all the Kyrie stuff that just happened. Right.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah. So there's and every once in a while you find a little nugget or piece of information that might seem relatively new. But the other thing I will say is that, the media coverage now especially with the internet, stuff gets out.
Yeah.
And so, maybe it's not confirmed per se, but we all hear a lot more than we used to. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to find, really new elements and angles because I think people have learned how to manage the media better,
Yeah.
So, but it's been fun to do. I've talked to some interesting people about, like Cam Neely, when he was playing here, used to love to go to Fenway Park during the week and sit in the stands and have beer. Have a couple beers, have a hot dog, watch the game. Nice. And then, and he said, I usually cut out about the 6th inning. That was enough for me. Okay, well, you were ahead of the curve. So
man of the people.
And back then the Red Sox were the thing. Right? Now it's different. Now it's, got to go to Foxborough.
Imagine seeing Brady in the balcony of a Celtics game.
Oh, right.
Man, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like totally different. So, but it's been, it's been unreal. I mean, amazing run.
No, well, that'll be great, man. Good luck with everything on your end. We'll let you get out of here.
Signed copies.
Yeah, for sure. Of course. Hopefully we didn't keep you too long, but before we let you go, remind our listeners where everyone can find you online and everything you guys have going on right now.
Oh, no worries. I appreciate that. So, I write for our website, 985thesportshub.com, but I'm on Twitter. And I think it's just at Tony Massarotti on Twitter.
Okay. We can have our research team verify that for you.
Yeah,
no problem.
You should double check those. At Tony Mazz 985 on Instagram. I am not on TikTok.
But are you on Cameo still?
Say it again.
Cameo still?
I'm still on Cameo. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And just, if you just Google my name or search my name on the Cameo site, it'll pop up. Okay. But I'm still trying to build an Instagram following for lots of reasons, which I'll get into someday, but it's really not that important.
Yeah.
As to why I'm doing it. I'd like to be able to link to stuff that we write and do, but the only way to do that is you got to get a certain number of followers and be verified.
Yeah.
And apparently getting verified on Instagram requires like a congressional act. Like the president has to sign off on the free.
I think Twitter's still probably the best platform for sports media guys, I would say. Yeah.
Totally.
So.
Oh, and Tony is also a strictly is it Vlasic or Clausen pickle guy?
Oh, Clausen.
Okay.
Way to go. You got to get it in the refrigerated section. Don't buy the Vlasic jars that are on. And don't get me wrong, I like your classic Vlasic too. It's fine. I used to eat them all the time. Then I went to the refrigerated. Different experience.
Game changer. Wow. Okay.
Totally.
Good insight.
But fuck the bread and butter chips. Those are garbage.
No, brutal.
Oh, those are yucky. Yeah. No thanks. Those are that's kids' food. Not great.
Please, it's awful. Like first time I had one, I wanted to spit it out.
Yeah. I mean, guys, we could go on all night talking about pickles. Let's let Tony get out of here. We'll let you get back, my friend. Thanks again for hopping on. And for everyone else, we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, guys, listen, thanks for having me. And look, I'll give some thought to the Felger and Mazz disputes. There have been some in the building that didn't involve us that I know about.
Oh, now we're talking. Okay.
Yeah. And we had, we had a couple early on that, I can fill you in on someday, but
Ted Johnson and Adam Jones got into it in the break room.
Who did?
Ted Johnson and Adam Jones got into it in the break room and threw down.
I don't remember
Zolak just has Jones up by his collar in like the break room.
Yeah, there are a lot of people like to hang Jones by his feet out the window. But Adam's a good guy too. I see that.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't think Adam's actually been involved in any of them now that I think of it. But I do know some people that have been.
Okay. Well,
we'll
save that for the book.
I get a little dirt, but we'll save that for when I retire.
Zolak giving Felger a swirly.
Yeah. Zolak was, was it you guys that I told the story that he came and stirred? I was drinking a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
He came and stuck his finger in there and started stirring my coffee. I'm like, Zoe, what are you doing? Now I got to get myself another cup of coffee. Is this
not CDC
this
approved?
This is pre-COVID. Can you imagine doing that now?
Yeah, exactly. Idiot. It's an HR lawsuit now.
I love him though.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, be well. Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mazz.
All right. We'll see you later.